All right, let's talk about prepositions of time. You know, those tiny little words like in, on, and at that can cause such a massive headache. If you've ever just stared at a sentence wondering which one is right, well, you are definitely not alone. But don't worry, we're going to clear all that confusion up today.
I mean, why does everyone seem to hate these things? It's totally understandable, right? The rules can feel so random, and the differences between them seem, well, microscopic sometimes. But here's the good news. There is a system, a logic to it all. And I promise, by the time we're done here, you're going to have a simple toolkit to nail these every single time. So here's the game plan. First, we'll talk about defining a time span, then what happens inside that time span. We'll tackle the classic confusion between duration and a starting point. Think for versus since. Then we'll look at the stop sign versus the deadline. That's until and by. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the classic time pyramid. Let's do this.
Okay, let's dive right into our first section, defining a time span. So before we even get to the tricky stuff, we need to know how to talk about a complete period of time. You know, something with a clear start and a clear end. So you've actually got a few ways to do this. You could say from Monday until Sunday, or maybe from Monday till Sunday. Even Monday through Sunday works. But honestly, here's the simplest way to think about it. When you're not sure, just stick with from to. It's the most common, it's super clear, like the office is open from 9 to 5. You really can't go wrong with that one. All right, so we've got our block of time all set up. Now, what happens in the middle of it? Let's check out the prepositions we use to talk about what's going on inside that time span. Okay, so let's look at during versus throughout. Now this one's a little subtle, but it's super useful. Think of it like this. Throughout means something is happening continuously from the very beginning to the very end. Like bats sleep throughout the day. They're snoozing that entire time. But during, well, that can mean at one specific point inside the period. If we say Mark left during the meeting, he didn't leave for the whole meeting, right? He just left at some point in the meeting. Context is really your best friend with these two. All right, what about when you've got a time limit? That's where within comes into play. Within is all about setting a boundary. It adds a bit of pressure, you know? Like in the example, contestants have to eat as many hot dogs as possible within 10 minutes. That means 10 minutes is the absolute limit, not a second over. It's all about getting something done inside a very strict time frame. Okay, let's get into what is honestly one of the most common points of confusion for pretty much everyone learning English. We're talking about duration versus a starting point. This one is a big one, so let's break it down. So here it is, for versus since. The easiest way to remember this is to think about the question each one answers. For always answers the question, how long? It's all about a length of time, a duration, like 4 or 5 years or 10 minutes. Since, on the other hand, answers when did it start? It points to a specific point in time when something began, like since 2020 or since Monday. Duration versus starting point. That's the key. And this little table just makes it crystal clear. Look at this. I've lived here for 5 years. Why 4? Because 5 years is a length of time. But look at the next one. I've lived here since 2021. Why since? Because 2021 is the starting point. See, it's the same basic information, just expressed in two different ways, depending on if you're focusing on the duration or the start date. Up next, another pair that trips a lot of people up, you until and by. But don't worry, I've got a really great way to think about this one. We're going to use the idea of a stop sign versus a deadline. Okay, first up, until. I want you to literally picture a giant stop sign. That's what until does. It tells you when a continuous action stops. So if you say, I'm going to wait here until my friend arrives, the action of waiting continues, and then stops when your friend shows up. It's the end point of an ongoing activity. Now let's look at by. Forget the stop sign. For by, I want you to think deadline. It's not for a continuous action. It's for a single task that has to be completed before or at a specific time. It's that final moment you have to get something done. Any later, and you've missed it. And check out how this works in action. You must wait here until midnight. See? That's the continuous action of waiting. It stops at midnight. But you must be home by midnight. That's not a continuous action. That's your deadline. It's the moment you have to complete the single action of arriving. It's amazing how one little word completely changes the meaning, isn't it? All right, it's time for the grand finale, the big one,
the classic time pyramid. This is where we finally put in, on, and at in their proper places. This simple visual is going to make everything click, I promise. We're going to start broad and general at the top and get more and more specific as we move down. So, at the very top of our pyramid, the biggest, widest part, we have the preposition in. Think big.
We use IN for the largest periods of time. We're talking centuries, like in the 18th century, decades, like in the 1990s, years, in 2026, seasons, in the summer, and months, like in March. These are all big general chunks of time. Okay, let's move one level down the pyramid. As we get a little smaller, a little more specific, we get to on. So we use on for days and dates. Think about it. Days of the week, like on Monday. Specific dates, on October 4th. Special days, like on my birthday. And in American English, we say on the weekend. We've narrowed it down from a whole month to just a single day or a couple of days.
And that brings us to the very bottom, the most precise, sharpest point of our pyramid, and that is AT. At is for the smallest, most exact points in time. We're talking clock times, like at 5 p.m., specific moments of the day, like noon, night, or midnight, and even meal times, like at lunch. These aren't long periods, they're like a single dot on a timeline.
So there you have it. Now, the next time you have to send a meeting invitation or make a plan, which one are you going to choose? Think about that pyramid. Is the meeting in the afternoon, on Friday, or at 2 p.m. sharp? Hopefully now you've got a much clearer idea of which one makes the most sense.